Hi everyone, I would like to welcome you all to What's the Tea with your host, Dave Fonseca. And we cannot have a discussion about relationships, breakups, and divorce without, a little tea. So hold on tight while we fill this cup up, okay? Boom, So, what's the tea? Lowercase, none of that capital T shit because we do not do the Tina. I just want to be like this normal dude who went through this crazy time in my life and sharing my experiences with you guys. And I spent my whole life living and breathing for someone else, and then here I am, and it's just me, and I'm like, what the fuck? And and I sit there and have wondered, like, okay, all this shit went down in my relationship. Why did I end up single? Well, you fucking idiot, you're half the reason why. You're always 50% responsible. And I've learned through my therapy to own my responsibility in my actions, my words, my behavior, because I cannot look forward to the next relationship unless I were to recognize the things that were not so great about myself in my previous relationship. And I think I'm hitting my damn mic here. Today is really focused on my behavior and my actions and my responsibility for that, for the ending of my relationship. And it's been a really interesting and at points a difficult road in therapy, because I had to face some demon, and being able to come out of that and using it as a learning experience to be a better person based off of behavior I had exhibited previously has been super liberating and freeing, very freeing. I don't think it was just one thing that led to the breakup. It was a multitude of things. The number one first problem was the fact that I couldn't fucking communicate to save my damn life. I couldn't tell you what my feelings were. I didn't want to talk about it. I was a closed up, tight little clamshell. I was a horrific communicator, and I learned that as a child. I was a product of my environment as a child, and watching my parents, I never learned how to communicate properly, so I just bottled everything up. I would bottle things up so much that someone would trigger something and I would explode like a volcano. What I have to own responsibility for is I volcanoed my ex-husband. I have spent a lot of time in therapy talking about, those words that I said and those really harsh, vile things that came out of my mouth. To move past it, had I been on the flip side of that conversation, that exchange, I probably would have been like, nope, this is done too. I had to hold myself accountable for all that bullshit, all that, grossness I allowed to come out of me that really I should have kept to myself. It doesn't even, didn't even deserve. I was so upset with myself because this is someone I spent 10 years with and, just had this amazing wedding with, and, all these things were happening with social media, and the fact that we were getting a lot of publicity on Instagram and things like that with our wedding. And I was just like, I literally allowed my parents' influence in me in this situation, and that was just unacceptable. That night, after we had that conversation, I called my best girlfriend and put her on speakerphone and copped up to exactly what had happened, and owned every single bit of it. And it was probably in the breakup, probably the hardest conversation I ever had. Literally having someone on the phone that I disappointed so incredibly much, and to the point where I could hear in her voice and the words that she said to me, I will never forget. That was the end of my relationship. It did not recover from that point. But I have to own the fact that I was this fucking asshole that literally verbally assaulted someone. And it doesn't make me feel good talking about it. It makes the hair on every part of my body stand up. And one of you out there knows this story, and I just discussed this with you not that long ago about abuse. And what I learned through therapy, and this is the crazy thing, is, when in therapy, you're open to the universe. You're like, please fucking teach me something. I learned that I was an emotional abuser. Let me repeat that, an emotional abuser. I went through 10 months of therapy, coming to terms with all of that and owning all of the responsibility that came with those actions and those words and that behavior. So that way I can sit here 2 years later and say, that's not me. And I won't let that be me anymore. There's so much to be learned about how you listen to your person, that they feel safe, they feel loved, they feel respected, they feel honored, heard. That's such a big thing, to just feel heard by your person, you have to own your own shit, because otherwise, what's the point? If you're going to continue being a narcissist and not believing that you've done anything wrong, then you're going to end up on your own. I wanted to put that work into making sure that behavior that I exhibited previously is not going to resurface. And thankfully, therapy has allowed me to be receptive of all the ways I needed to learn and grow for myself, so that way I could be and can be an amazing partner to someone. Another thing I think that is super important in owning my own responsibility for my breakup is the fact that I allowed myself to disappear in my relationship. And by that, I mean, I allowed someone else's wants and needs to come before my own, in the sense that it changed who I was as a person. I remember entering in 2006, the beginning stages of this relationship with my ex-husband, saying, I never wanted to get married, and I never wanted children. And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, I find myself married and talking adoption. That wasn't me. Those were things I didn't want. That's something someone else wanted, but I allowed what they wanted to come in and infiltrate me, and then I got lost in the middle of all that. And then I wonder, I've sat back and thought about, why did I end up single? Because I wasn't living my true life. I wasn't living the life that I wanted to live. I was now living someone else's. But from the beginning, my ex wanted children and a wedding, and I didn't. Why wasn't that a red flag? That should have been a red flag, and if I had one, I'd fucking pull it out and be like, Dave, what are you doing? Yeah, you're a good-looking kid, but, you guys want something different. I don't want my own kids. I want to be a part of my friends' children's lives, but I don't want that personally. And I allowed someone else to come in and change my mind. No. That was unacceptable. I should have been able to stand my own ground and say, you know what, I know this is what you want, but I don't want it. And that should have ended the relationship, because that was a very vital thing that he wanted. Who am I to deny him that? Going back to, owning the responsibility of the downfall of my relationship, I sucked at communicating, awful. I was an emotional abuser. Okay, not proud of it, but that's exactly, I have to call it what it is, and it is what it is. And then losing myself in my relationship. I want to, give you guys a little bit of homework. And for those of you that are in a relationship right now, I want you to think about the last time your partner has come and sat down in front of you and presented something, whether it be good or bad. How do you handle it? Do you actually listen and, respond accordingly? Or do you shut them down and not fucking listen and be a dick and an asshole and all those things that I was so good at being? Are you that person?